So we've looked at the different ways that you can have inconsistency in your data set. You can have inconsistency in a single field. It can be not consistent with something outside the data set. And you can have inconsistency in a single line, a single row of data, having two fields that aren't consistent with each other. That's the inconsistency problem solved. The next thing we have to think about, is duplication. Sometimes data can't be duplicated. Usually the thing that can't be duplicated is the thing we call the primary key, or the thing that uniquely identifies a row. For example, if you had a list of students, the student ID would have to be unique. You can't have more than one student. In the health field, if you had a list of patients, you couldn't have maybe the unit record identifier. That's often a thing you use to identify patients. These days you might have an individual health identifier that is unique. In our data set, if we look at the MBS data set, we have MBS ID is the field that has to be unique. Each line should be unique. There shouldn't be more than 1001. So again, we could sort it into numeric order and go through and look at it and try to find duplications, but that would take a long time. R has tools for that. So again, we start with another file. We're going to copy the same preamble in so that we can so we've got another file. We're going to save that as a I'm going to call this duplicate check. R. This reads in the data, and it filters out the problem we found in missing values. We're also going to filter out the problem we found in line level inconsistency. Those two lines there, and and we're going to put that into MBS2. So again, if we started just from scratch and we had loaded this up for the first time, we could run those commands. We'd read in the data, and we would end up with what did I do wrong? Oh, I forgot a bracket. Press it. If you get here and you it doesn't do what you want it to do, you need a bracket. So why did that not work? Let's run that by itself. No, that didn't work. There's something the matter with that command. Probably because we're missing a bracket, and that often happens. We want to filter so that, let's see, the MBS by itself works. I think we can just go like that and press Control Enter, and that works by itself. Yeah, good. So this line here, why does that not work? It's saying, if we go to the start, I mean, we say, is there a matching bracket? It says there's no matching bracket at the end of that. Why is there not a matching bracket? Where is that match bracket? Ah, yes, we're missing one bracket right at the end of that line. And now if we run those lines, it creates the MBS2 variable, 6,335 observations. So that's the one that we've got now. Now we want to see if there's any duplicates in there. So one thing we could do is we could use distinct, which we've used before. We could say MBS2 percent greater than percent and distinct. What we want to see is the MBS ID distinct. Now if this came back with this, so MBS2 has got 6335, we run that and it says 6325. So obviously there's 10 duplicates in there because when we say what's the number of distinct MBS IDs, we end up with 10 duplicates. So how can we find out the ones that are, find out which ones are the ones that are duplicated? The way to do that is to count, to say how many of them are there. So instead of saying distinct, we'll say count. And what that does is it says find out, group together all the MBS IDs and tell me the number of each one there is. So I press Control Enter, and that says, oh, there's one of each kind, but there's we can't tell. We need to find the big ones at the top. So we could sort that. We've seen that before. Arrange MBS N is the column we're looking for. So that sorts the N, the smallest N's at the top. We actually want the smallest N's at the bottom, so we want descending of N. And we run that. And these are the duplicate ones. These are the ones that have duplicate IDs. Now we don't know which ones are wrong, so we want to get rid of all the ones that are duplicated. So it looks like they're all 2, but we could say filter. We say how many are duplicated, how many are greater than 1. So filter and greater than 1. And those are the 10 ones that have duplicated. So that gives us the set of duplicates. So we can use that. We can put that into a variable. Bracket dot bracket, and then put that into a variable. We'll call that duplicated underscore MBS underscore ID. So now we can use that MBS ID, duplicated MBS ID. I can show you that it contains that same thing. It's got those 10 variables in it. It's up there now. So we could just filter it. We could say MBS2. Seems like my keyboard has stopped working. It stopped working, but I have another keyboard. I can use that instead. I shouldn't have washed my keyboard. So now we want to say, does MBS, we want to subtract out those duplicated ones from the MBS2. So we've got MBS2. So we could just say percent greater than filter MBS underscore ID is not equal to 1014646, and then we can continue on and say and it's not equal to this, and it's not equal to this. We'd have 10 lines of that, and that would be a fine way to do it. But we're not gonna do that. That just gets rid of 1. We'd have to have more. We'll say and MBS underscore ID is not equal to 10583. So you can imagine what that would do. We would have to just go on and have 10 lines of things. But if there was 100 or 1,000 of them, you would not want to do that. You'd want to kind of automate that process. That's why I put this into this. I created this duplicated MBS ID variable, because we can do this. We can automate this process. MBS 2 %. And so what's some of the ways we've used to get rid of things? Well, we could do an anti-join. We've seen that before. You could say MBS2 anti-join. So take the MBS2 and subtract out the duplicated. And that ends us with 6315. So we've gotten rid of 20 variables, all 10 of the duplicated MBS IDs, and each instance of them. So that does what we want to do. It's easier than typing in all those things, and more automated as well. So again, we put that into a variable, and we'll call that MBS3. We run that, and now MBS3 has got 6315 values, the right number according to the last one. Now let's run our count again to make sure that that we have gotten rid of the things that we thought we were going to get rid of. Sort of check our work. So we count; they're all ones. If we arrange it in descending order, they should all be ones. Another thing we could have done is we could have gone up to we could have said what we did at the start there. We could have done a distinct and that would have the same number as MBS3. So that's got 6315, and MBS3 has also got 6315. So we've gone through, found the duplicated MBS IDs, and gotten rid of them from the MBS table.